Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm Sarah Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
And welcome to Season 2.
Yes, with Ian Whitman.
Ian Whitman is a principal double bassist for the KW Symphony, and he's also a double bass instructor at Wilfrid Laurier University.
And this is such a down-to-earth interview. I so much enjoy talking to him.
Yeah, Ian's just basically a cool guy. If you check out his videos on YouTube, he's got this great series. You sent it to me.
Yeah.
Name That Tune, where he plays on the double bass tons of different songs, and he numbers them on the side, and then he has follow-up videos explaining the answers to those. I had a lot of fun watching that because there was some cool rock in there. Yeah, and some experimental stuff. He had some Tragically Hip. I'm not going to give it all away.
And he has 4 tracks that we're going to hear on tonight's show.
Here he is, Ian Whitman.
Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Do you enjoy Bonn Park podcast?
If so, we would really appreciate it if you
Leave a review,
like, rate, subscribe, but most importantly,
share directly from the platforms
with your family and friends. That's the best way to get the word out to everybody, and more people will get to see our show that way. So click those like buttons and share our show. Thank you.
Thanks.
On with the show. This is it. Bonn Park is supported by Elite Training Facility. With over 30 years experience, Elite Training Facility in Kitchener knows how to help you reach your fitness goals. They've got personal training, strength classes, registered massage therapy, and much more. Their facility has always been clean and spacious, and now the staff are taking even greater precautions to ensure the safety of all. Physical distancing, sanitizing, and safety protocols are all in place and respected by all. They pass their health and safety inspection, ensuring they are following the latest guidance to prevent viral transmission. It is more important than ever for people to take care of themselves in mind and body. Elite Training Facility can help. They have the experience, knowledge, and personable touch to develop a fitness regime that is right for you. Pro athlete, beginner, or a senior, let Elite Training Facility sculpt a fitness program to target your specific needs. Find them at elitetrainingfacility.ca or follow them on Facebook and Instagram. We are supported by Fellini's Italian Cucina in Stratford. Fellini's restaurant has been serving up house-made Italian comfort food like pizzas, pastas, and other classics for more than 26 years. Their pizzas, pastas, entrees, soups, breads, and desserts are made daily in-house by their chefs. And you can also enjoy all your favorite tastes of Fellini's in your own kitchen with a weekly selection of sauces, pestos, pastas, and more. A staple of Stratford's main street for years, Fellini's is perfect for a pre-theater meal or a cozy night of takeout. Drop by Fellini's Italian Cucina at 107 Ontario Street, Stratford, or check them out online at fellinistratford.com, or have their amazing food delivered via Skip the Dishes. Buen appetito! Bonn Park is supported by Gibson Sound and Vision. Since 1955, Gibson Sound and Vision has been providing Waterloo Region with the industry's best electronics backed by excellent customer service. Their expert sales consultants can help you with any size project, whether the home entertainment system of your dreams or a fully outfitted conference room for state-of-the-art meetings. For home or business, indoor or outdoor, Gibson Sound and Vision can hook you up with the perfect solutions for your specific needs. Interactive whiteboards, projectors and screens, automated lighting systems. If it has to do with sound and vision, Gibson's got it. And when you purchase your equipment from Gibson's, be assured that their factory-trained technicians are there for you with any technical difficulties you may encounter. Gibson Sound and Vision is located at 25 Columbia Street East in Waterloo. Visit them at gibsonsv.com or follow Gibson Sound and Vision on Facebook and Twitter. Let's wing it. That's how we do things best, with a dash of YOLO.
Yeah.
Love it.
Ian Whitman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be here, Sara and Marshall. Really nice to meet you in this medium.
Quote unquote meet. It's our first time meeting, but we have a connection. A previous guest, Jeff Davis, creator and founder of Island Sun, is a friend of yours. And after we had an interview with him, he started firing off emails to me. You got to talk to this person. You got to talk to that person. And we definitely hooked up with you right away. And we're so excited to really get into it. So I want to know a little bit about your history. You started playing bass when you were 17.
That's right. I started playing the double bass, upright bass, string bass, doghouse bass, whatever you want to call it. But so I started that when I was 17, kind of towards the end of high school. And previous to that, I played electric bass guitar. And before that, kind of in junior high, I started playing electric guitar. And that was kind of, I picked up the electric guitar, and it was really, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play music. I wanted to play guitar in a band. And I had a lot of, Guitar Hero influences. This definitely pre-video game Guitar Hero. This is the real thing in the 90s. And I played in a bunch of bands. And I kind of, just briefly over the few years kind of gravitated more towards, let's call it a professional career in orchestral playing. I went to a college in Edmonton. That's born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta. And I went to a great college there. It's now a university, Grant MacEwan. Learned to play jazz and did a lot of pop music there, funk, Latin. It was a really great time. My bass teacher there was also a member of the Edmonton Symphony, and he's a really relaxed guy, but he really got me onto the idea of, well, hey, you can make a career in the orchestra and still play all this other great music on the side, like he does. John Taylor is his name, and he really influenced me to go into the orchestral world. And I love the music too. I mean, the orchestral repertoire is so amazing. So it's not like I have to struggle to really love what I play in the orchestra. So I went to school, practiced a lot, and then got the job here in KW in 2008. So about 13 years ago. Is that right?
There's a few things in between there, though. I read on your bio, right? You studied at Yale University's School of Music.
That's right.
You played in Carnegie Hall, the Symphony Hall in Boston, and then you made your way up somehow up here to KW. How did that happen?
Well, I went to Montreal. I studied at McGill first, so that kind of brought me out east. And I finished at McGill and decided I wanted to continue studying. There was a great teacher down in the States in Boston who I was really interested in studying with. His name's Don Palma. Wonderful bass player, wonderful person. And so I auditioned at the New England Conservatory in Boston. I got in, and then they sent me a bill for $25,000 US, and I said, "Ooh, okay, I don't think so." So I talked to Don on the phone, and he said, "Hey, I've got this great opportunity. Come on down to the Yale School of Music." I said, "Yale? I've heard of Yale. That's that big university. They have a music program," and it turned out to be wonderful. Small program, but really a great place to be. I moved on to Boston after that, continued studying with him, ended up at that conservatory that I didn't attend originally, and got a job here with the KW Symphony when I was studying kind of, I wouldn't say casually, but I wasn't doing a huge academic degree, PhD kind of thing in Boston. So I decided to leave that and come up here and start the professional career. And I mean, that kind of ties into this, but I just want to say that I think your podcast is fantastic, and I love the topic. I love KW, Waterloo region, because I am a huge fan of KW, and I have been for many years. This is where I made my professional career. This is where I met my wife. My wife's a violinist in the orchestra, Aline. and we have 2 kids now, and it's a great place. It's such a great towns.
Yeah. We were just talking about that with somebody else. Yeah.
Region, all that kind of thing. And, we love hanging out, just like, yourselves at Bonn Park. We love going to parks, bigger parks, smaller parks, trails, all that kind of thing. And it's a really, really great place. I'm so proud. And it's totally honest. So proud to live here. So proud to be a part of the symphony, a part of the music scene. So proud to talk to people like you who are very passionate about this place. So there you go, heart on sleeve. That's kind of in a nutshell how I got here. And you mentioned Jeff Davis as well. He's a good friend of mine, and I like to call myself the unofficial sponsor of Island Sun, the kind of sponsor that doesn't give any money really. But I'm happy. I'm so proud of what he's done. So I just want to thank him for putting us in touch. And this is I've been excited about this for a long time.
I'm so glad.
Since we were first in touch, and now I've got to stop babbling away here. But this is
this is what we do. It's a
right.
podcast.
Okay, I guess.
And you rock, Jeff Davis. We know you're listening.
Yes, you do.
Hey, Ian, tell us about that piece of music that we opened the show with tonight.
So
Which
this
was
is
Jangles, right?
Jangles. Yeah, this is a pandemic project. The first lockdown, first wave hit in March. Symphony shut down. Everything shut down, as you know, and so the symphony started asking us to do little projects at home. I did a few a little tour of my studio here that I'm
Which
in now.
looks so familiar to me because I've watched the YouTube videos, right? So oh, I know this poster. And
yeah, there's the kind of racy opera poster that my wife got when she played in Toronto. There, you don't have to edit it because we're only on audio.
That's
but,
right. We'll leave it to the imagination of the listeners.
That's right. Yeah. So I got in touch with our principal oboe player, Leif Mosba, who I have known on and off for about 20 years. We were in the National Youth Orchestra together in 2002. We went to Japan together, and he's been working with the symphony for about 2 years now. Anyway, this is a great piece that I played before. Kind of a jazzy thing, but written by a classical composer who's, for some reason, writing music for bass and oboe, bass and flute, and the double bass unfortunately doesn't get as much attention by composers as a violin or a trumpet or a clarinet. So I'm really grateful that the composer wrote this piece. A lot of fun to play. So we recorded. Each recorded our parts separately, of course. I made a click track for him, sent that over the internet to him, and he played along with the click track and then just kind of stuck them together. Pretty lo-fi with modern technology, just garage band, but it was a lot of fun to do and a lot of fun to kind of learn how to use these free programs that come with one's laptop over the pandemic.
I know all about them. Yep.
Yeah. So that was one of the many projects that I was lucky enough to be involved in during lockdown in the spring last year.
Well, let's talk about the next piece of music. We are going to hear Equali. So tell us about that one.
This is you're going to hear one movement out of 3. It's a piece by Beethoven, who is turning or just turned 250. December 17th, I think. I should know that better, but 1770 he was born. So this piece originally for 4 trombones, and you'll hear it's very solemn. It was actually played at his own funeral in 1827, and I had the sheet music just kind of lying around. I have a lot of bass ensemble music for my students at Laurier, where I teach, and I got the idea to record this. I was using my bow. Normally, with in the orchestra and in classical playing, we use our bows to play to make the sound. But in of course, as you know, in jazz and rockabilly, it's a finger we call it pizzicato in the orchestra, but it's plucking basically like an electric bass. So I decided to try it out plucking rather than bowing, and I even if nobody else does, I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. It was, you can ask Aline, it was an incredible amount of work for just a project that nobody really heard. I spent days and days, I was super stressed out about it. It was supposed to be kind of fun, so I'm glad it turned out at least in a way that I'm happy with. The click track at one point was too loud. It was bleeding out the earphones, so I had to kind of cut that out. And it was really stressful. So I hope it comes out to the listeners as a more of a relaxing kind of thing to hear.
Ian, I like to talk about the center and the square. My earliest memory of it is seeing Johnny Cash when I was 11.
You saw Johnny Cash at Center in the Square?
Yeah, it was one of the very first concerts.
I learn something new about you every time we talk.
But the concert I wish I saw, I'm a huge Ozzy Osbourne and Randy Rhoads fan. And Ozzy and Randy were there on the Blizzard of Oz tour.
Wow.
In the summer of 81. And but anyways, I'm never not in complete awe of the Center and the Square when I walk in. Can you share with us your earliest memory of the Center and the Square, and also does that actually wear off at some point for you, where you're in this world-class theater that has this energy like nothing I can think of in KW. But anyways, can you share some of your own ideas about that?
Yeah, that's super cool about Ozzy. I remember, and I'm sorry to get sidetracked here. I remember listening to one of your shows. You're saying you interviewed Zakk Wylde, I saw him on the tour. I think it was 1995, playing with Ozzy on the Osmosis tour. And
at the Warehouse in Toronto.
No, this was in Edmonton at the it used to be called Northlands Coliseum, but. Anyway, so that's cool. That would have been incredible to see with Randy Rhoads.
And Geezer Butler was on bass for that tour.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah. The Center and the Square it's amazing. It's built in 1980, and it's gone through some renovations here and there, but the sound it just sounds really good, and it's wonderful to play in there no matter what we do. I've heard concerts in there. One of the favorite concerts I saw there was about 10 years ago, Stephen Page and the Art of Time Ensemble. I was never a huge Bare Naked Ladies fan. I like them. They're a great band. I'm just not a huge fan, but Stephen Page, I love his voice. I love his singing. So it was great to hear him do this album of cover tunes there. And I saw Raffi there with my daughter a couple of years ago, and it was just him and his guitar.
Super rock star.
Yeah, nice rock star beard. And it just sounds great in the audience. It sounds great. The sound crew is fantastic there, so they know exactly what to do. So it never really gets old. No, sure, we get used to it, but I think one of the real maybe sad is too strong of a word, but the symphony's been recording concerts there for live streaming, but without an audience. So we go to do a concert, and we finish a symphony or whatever, and it's just quiet.
Crickets,
it is kind of sad to just you hear the resonance, and then there's nothing after that.
Which is beautiful on its own. That resonance is so beautiful. But I mean, can't they do what the NFL is doing and pump in some crowd cheer?
Not a bad idea. Yeah,
right?
I'll have to.
Or the Kelly
that.
Clarkson show and put in.
Are they doing that?
20 people on a monitor.
Oh.
Hey,
Yeah.
Ian, I'm sorry. I really screwed up that timeline. Of course, you were in Edmonton in the mid-'90s. Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah. So I hope I answered your questions about the center and the square. It's just a great place to be. I know it has a really long history in KW, and a lot of incredible bands have come through there, just like the Odd and Lulu's when it was still around. So I think it's one huge piece of a great music scene and a great art scene that we have here. And if you talk to people in Toronto, even in Toronto, they probably wouldn't appreciate it in the same way that we do living here.
Well, it's special for us. It's where you go when something great is going to happen.
Yeah,
right.
That's right. Yeah.
Fun story, fun fact. I sang on the stage at Center in the Square.
Oh, I would love to stand on that stage.
It was for my grade 12 graduate. It was for my graduation from high school with Alan Lung, who wrote and composed our and performed our theme song.
Yeah.
Yeah. A million years ago.
Nice. Well, it's great to have a community place like that as well. We think of it for concerts and comedy, stand-up comics, but members of the community use it as well too. Graduations, we do a lot of stuff with community groups, dancers and singers and choirs. The Grand Philharmonic Choir we work with normally as well. So it's really, and I think without getting too political, I think the Kitchener City Council has really done a great job recently ensuring that it's a place that we as a community can really thrive and grow in, rather than just going to see a great out of town act and then going home. It's really something hopefully we can all participate in, or as many of us as possible.
The double bass, what's that like playing with an instrument that I believe even is taller than you when you're standing up? I can't think of any other instrument that has a presence like the double bass.
It's of course something I'm used to now, but I still complain about it, at least in my own head, often enough, because it's big and I'm always banging it on things. I even try to get it from down here in my studio to my car in the garage, and it's there's stuff around. I'm tripping and falling over things, especially with the kids' toys around. But
I love the video of you and your daughter on YouTube, and she's a little peanut next to it. She's the tiniest thing, and you're playing. I think you're playing songs that might sound like farm animals. In that specific video. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love the bass, just because it's got such a natural sound. I mean, you can say that about any instrument, I guess, especially acoustic instruments, but I love listening to jazz records and even old, Elvis Presley records, where you could really hear. You get a nice set of headphones, you put it on, and you can really hear the noise that comes from the bass, the fingers and the strings kind of slapping against the fingerboard, and I love that stuff almost as much as I love the actual notes that come from it. You listen to a recording of a symphony, and when you hear the basses really dig in, you hear the strings kind of hit against the fingerboard with the pressure of the bow, and I love that. I totally love that, and it's something I like replicating when I play, but it just it happens naturally as well, and it's a great sound.
It's funny you say that, because I never would have maybe spoke to anybody about it before, but when I hear a piano recording, or someone's recording maybe something acoustic with their piano, could be a friend, or it could be somebody famous, or something that you're listening to on Spotify or wherever, but when I hear the creak of the pedals on a piano, man, does that feel good to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It feels warm and comforting, and it's part of the song then.
Yeah, and you hear we have great soloists who come and play piano concertos and violin concertos with us, and you hear that same you hear them making noise. The famous recordings of Glenn Gould playing the Bach pieces are probably the most famous, and Oscar Peterson, Charles Mingus, the great jazz bass player, would always kind of yell along with his band and stuff. Just that, whether it's live or on recordings, just to hear that really unrefined sound. That's what I love about music, I think. And if it's okay to shift towards the guitar just for a second, I think that's really why the electric guitar, I think, is my favorite instrument, just because there's so many sounds that come along with it. Pick slides and muted strings and all that. I love hearing that as much as I love hearing the notes of the guitar player. A great acoustic guitar player as well. You really hear those, when they change chords, you hear the little tiny
little slide against the calloused fingers.
Yeah, so many great sounds.
Ian, when it comes to guitarists, has this ever happened to you where some guitarist just isn't on your radar for whatever reason for a long, long time, and then sometimes it either takes their death or something to just kind of awaken you to them, and you're like, wow, how is it that all these years have gone by and I was not aware of how amazing? Are there guitarists like that for you where you just really came to it late?
I would say 100% the Beatles. Go back about, let's say, 20 years, even 15 years. Beatles. I don't. What's the big deal?
Shame on you.
Yeah, well, I know that's the way I feel about my past self. But when I turned 30, I bought Revolver.
That's a great one to start with.
And I knew a lot of the tunes because there's so many covers out there of a lot of great Beatles tunes. So I knew the songs, and I had a roommate in university, another bass player who listened to the Beatles all the time, and I happily listened along because whatever was on was good. But yeah, when I got into the Beatles, it was just like this kind of eye-opening thing, like, wow, this band is great. Have you heard of this band, the Beatles? Kind of ironically, but I think George Harrison is one of those guitar players. I never appreciate him because he wasn't like the Hendrix or Jimmy Page.
He was like a sleeper in the background, but he was crushing it.
But so I know he wasn't the main songwriter, of course, but his guitar writing is just so tasty, and his playing was great. So I'm sure there are others, but that band and George Harrison definitely comes to mind first.
Let's hear some more music.
So this is another pandemic project. It's a jam. When I started playing guitar, my younger sister, who would have been maybe 10 or so, maybe 12 years old at the time, lent me money to buy my first guitar. It was a Fender Stratocaster.
What a beautiful story.
I think I paid her back. That's the story I'm going with. But
yeah.
And I had I had many other guitars. I went over to Gibson's. I had a Les Paul and an SG and a few other things. But I always kept this guitar. I never sold it when I got out of guitar playing. And a year and a half ago, I finally brought it out to Kitchener. It was in my mother's place in Edmonton. And I love playing it. Usually play it unamplified. Just kind of mess around with it for about 5 minutes, and that's the extent of my abilities. But I bought it's called I got it right here. It's an iRig, so it allows you to plug your guitar into your phone and play with headphones like a little amplifier or record on GarageBand. So I was kind of during the first wave of the pandemic again, was just kind of messing around and put a click track on and recorded the guitar part, and I said, well, I like these chords. So I plugged my my electric bass in and recorded another part over top of that, and that was that. And I was thinking, what kind of music should I send in? I'm not a recording artist really, so I said, well, why don't I send this, because it just kind of shows a little bit of my older musician self, just playing guitar and electric bass. And I decided to call it Interstitial Jam because I do listen to a lot of podcasts, And this interstitial music is that little bit of music that kind of transitions from one segment to another. And I thought that maybe this could be that for our show today. So here you go. Hope you enjoy. If there's any singers out there who want to put lyrics to it, I'm happy to be to sell you the rights to it.
Question, Ian, that's probably double bass for dummies here. I play a little bit of guitar and a little bit of piano myself, but I cannot fathom double bass, cello, violin where there's no marker. And I understand you have a very intimate relationship with how that instrument works and you've been doing it for decades. How on earth do you start to know the exact placement of a note on something that doesn't have black and white rules, you know?
It's a really good question, and I think at the beginning, for me anyway, I was coming straight from electric bass, so I kind of visualized the fingerboard in the same way as the fretboard. I could kind of see, there's a very big divide at what guitar players call the 12th fret. That's the octave of the string. So you kind of visualize that in the middle where the string gets cut in half. And then there's just 11 frets going from or 10 frets in the open string. My math's not very good right now, but you know what I mean. From first fret to 12th fret, you kind of visualize those notes. And there are a few different ways, a few different fingering schools, but the one I learned basically uses three fingers in the lower position, 1, 2, and then 4. So you just kind of work your way up at first. And
it must be brutal the first few times you try it.
I would never want to go back, because it takes a lot of strength to push the strings down. They're hard on the fingers as well. They're flat wound as opposed to an electric bass. It has the little notches, little grooves in it. But yeah, and then after a while you use open strings, just like you would tune your guitar with the low E on the 5th fret to the open A, and you try to make that the same. That's one way to tune a guitar, as you know. Mm-hmm. You can kind of use those notes and just train your fingers to go in the right spot. And then over time, this is one of the most interesting parts, I think, is your body picks up on little, I guess it's called muscle memory. We throw that word around a lot.
But it's a real thing.
Yeah. The angle of your elbow, just like, you play guitar and you don't always look at your fingers. So you kind of know where you are, just by the way it feels. If you're playing a G chord, you know how it feels. You might reach down and touch the nut with the side of your hand. And then just without even thinking, the distance up to 3rd fret to play that low G on the low string to start that G chord. It's just intuitive. And the more you get comfortable with the instrument, the more you subconsciously recognize these little markers. Your forearm might touch the side of the bass as you move up higher. Your thumb sits in a particular place when you play a certain note. So just repetition over and over and over again. And I tell my students to be aware of these things and try to think about them. And then as they get more comfortable, more proficient, then you just automatically recognize them. That doesn't mean that it's always perfect. I certainly play a couple notes out of tune here and there, but that's where the ear takes over and you adjust your finger a little bit.
So as someone who plays a double bass, are they able to pick up a cello or pick up a violin, and vice versa, the violinist able to suddenly grab the double bass and make sense of it? Can they make sense of it pretty, not easily, but is there something kind of, those skills just transition nicely between those instruments?
I would say cello and bass and viola and violin, you can. Viola, for the listeners not totally sure, the viola is kind of the bigger, deeper version of the violin, still held under the chin like the violin. It's just lower register. So there are a lot of violinists and violists who go back and forth, and they can do it. Certainly a lot different. I'm not saying it's easy to do, but it can be done fairly often. Cello and bass, you don't see that as much. Because our tuning is different on the bass. First of all, we're tuned in fourths, just like the lower strings of the guitar, just like the electric bass. And cello is tuned in fifths. There are exceptions to the bass. Some bass players do tune in fifths, actually, but it's not very common and something I haven't been brave enough to attempt yet. So I think that's one of the reasons why I coach a little tiny orchestra of little tiny kids, about 6 or 7 years old. At the symphony, it's the youngest group, and they have a cello there that I can demonstrate on, and I can, if I really concentrate hard, I can play the right notes to the piece. It's something. I mean, it's smaller, so for me it feels a lot easier to get around, but cellos also have more notes that they're required to play, so that kind of makes up for it. I don't think I've ever tried to play my wife's violin, Aline's violin, just because just even holding it, the whole chin thing just doesn't make sense to me. And obviously they get used to it and it's second nature. But I see us, have a soloist with us playing Beethoven violin concerto, and the orchestra will be playing. They'll be getting ready to play their entrance, and they're just kind of standing there with the violin on their chin. And I'm like, oh. Yeah. You're not going to drop it, are you? That's probably a Stradivarius, like $2 million violin. Please don't.
I'm just thinking of the chiropractic care that these poor musicians need.
Oh, that's another story. Yeah, but it's true. Yeah.
Tell us about your love for prog rock records and where that came from, and what some of those first bands were that you heard that kind of turned you on. Did you go to Columbia House and buy 10 records for 10 CDs for a penny?
I
didn't really know.
For any young listeners, Columbia House was like Spotify, but it came in the mail.
Right. We had A&B Sound in Edmonton, which was a Western Canada thing, and their main floor was all stereo equipment, but upstairs was all CDs. And they had this amazing. It was like a separate room with jazz and classical music. So you hear the Pearl Jam playing in the speakers outside, and then you'd go through these glass doors and they would close and there'd be nice classical music playing. You almost had to go past the bouncer at the door when you went into that other room. But it was just not that there's anything wrong with hearing Pearl Jam, of course, but it was nice to have those two different areas to shop for CDs in. It was like fairly near to my house, but it's somewhere you had to drive to, and they also had a Ticketmaster in there, as you remember. The good old days. Back in the day, you had to go to a place to buy tickets for concerts, and really popular concerts. There were no bots that would scoop up all the tickets, but I think you could call as well and try to get tickets. So in the olden days, we'd camp out for tickets sometimes. So I did camp out there a couple times with a bunch of people. There was kind of a grassy area behind the store, and we'd camp there and wait till the store opened, and then you'd kind of line up a few minutes before the store opened. Then you get tickets. I don't remember which ones I actually camped out for, but around that time I saw the Rolling Stones, and like I mentioned, Ozzy Osbourne and Van Halen, who of course Eddie just passed away a couple months ago, and that was still I'm kind of really bummed about that, because he was one of my huge guitar influences when I was getting into the instrument. So it was just a great time, and I I still have my CDs, and I still have a lot of the CDs I bought around that time, even though I probably have some of those CDs that I burned and put on my phone, and now I just get them on Apple Music because they're right there. And but it was kind of a nice time, and I'm feeling a resurgence in that as well. I got into vinyl recently.
We did too.
I think I just heard a bunch of your listeners roll their eyes somehow in the future. But I had some records out in Edmonton that I got before the vinyl craze. I just saw them first couple Led Zeppelin albums, Moving Pictures, Dark Side of the Moon, and I just kind of bought them because they were really cheap, and I thought, oh, these would be cool to have. And I always intended to get a record player at some point. So just this past year, my in-laws got me one for my birthday, and I have about 25 records now. And I really like, compared to listening to a streaming service or even something on my phone, I love how much effort it takes to listen to something. You have to go and you have to put it on the turntable and let it start playing. And if you don't want to listen to the next song, well, what are you going to do? Move the needle? I don't want to touch that needle. It's all automatic.
You listen to it in the way it's intended.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love that so much. And some of these are digitally remastered, so they sound different, not just the sound of it, but I feel like they added things, which is probably not true.
Am I allowed to talk about it, Marshall?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't brought this up for about 6 months, and you're the perfect person to bring this up with. The reason why it feels better is because it is better. The MP3s, the way they're created, are compressed, and there's stuff missing in that MP3 file that your ear doesn't get to hear, that your brain is filling in. But because your brain is filling it in and it's not being offered to you, you do not get the same endorphin response from Spotify or your phone. So when you put that record on and you feel like things are added, it's because they are. They're really there.
Wow.
I know.
I had no idea. That's amazing.
I'm doing the brain exploding thing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marshall.
Yeah.
Felt good to let it out again.
Yeah, I'm surprised it was so short.
Nice work.
I thought you were going to say I'm surprised it was so long since you talked about it again.
So it's then you have to get up and flip the record over, but I do like you said, I like listening to how it is intended. No shuffle. I have a couple of rules, and I break some of them all the time, but I try not to buy records that I have already on CD. And I try not to buy compilations as well, because I find if I look at my record collection or my CD collection, I do have a lot of compilations, and they're great things, but it's not how it was intended.
No,
it's
not. Yeah, it's not great to just put them on and let them play through. An album, like we were saying before, it's listening to that whole story from start to finish, right?
Yeah, including the Tower of Power ballads, which I can't stand, but they're on there, and I got to listen to them.
So with so much music happening in your house, and your wife being a symphony musician as well, are your kids showing any promise? Are you trying to push them, not push them?
Well, yeah, the joke I have is the people ask, have you bought them an instrument yet? Are you getting into musical lessons? No, I'm getting into medical lessons or lawyer lessons.
No
or
kidding,
that kind of
right?
thing. Because it's, I see how tough it is out there in the music industry, and how things are constantly changing. And just, I think I'm incredibly fortunate to have a life like I do, playing music, but it's not typical, I don't think. So, but at the same time, certainly not going to discourage. They're a bit young to really care too much right now. I hope they do have a real appreciation for all types of music, and to avoid going into any kind of snob phase like I certainly have in the past. Just whatever people want to listen to, that's great. Whatever people want to create, that's great. I think there's room for everything, and we should support it all, as individuals, but also as a society, as a culture. I think we should fund them both monetarily and just with our support. My daughter, she's great. She dances, she sings, she loves Frozen, just like every 5-year-old out there. I think I know the Frozen soundtracks now by memory,
They're
for
not
better
bad.
or for worse.
Some of it's well written. I haven't seen
def-
2. Sorry, I've only seen 1.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
No.
I've seen each of them once. And no, it's amazing music. It's not my thing. I don't like musicals. It's not my thing, but it's incredibly well written. It's incredibly well sung. Idina Menzel we actually did a show with her about 10 years ago. She did a recording in Toronto and we were her backup band. It was great. She's a great singer but it's not really my thing, and that's fine. But she loves that. She sings along. It's adorable. My son definitely shows more interest in it. He, if he's upset or crying, he'll usually respond positively to being sung to, and he dances. That's one thing. He's definitely more active than my daughter was. He's around. He's destructive. He's all that kind of thing. But music definitely does center him. So it's really wonderful to see.
We're so thrilled to have you as our first guest of season 2.
We are.
And your music tonight has been wonderful. And before you take us out tonight with this last track, tell us what it's all about.
Well, Sara and Marshall, thank you again, and congratulations on such a successful run so far.
Thanks.
Again, I love the topic, the Waterloo region, KW. It's great. And again, thank you to Jeff Davis for introducing us. And if you don't know Island Sun, check out the hot sauce. Fantastic. He's got Bajan Tiger. He's collaborating with some restaurants and breweries in town, making all sorts of different things coming up this spring. So check it out. So thanks very much, Jeff.
I would caution you with a triple R. Hot sauce.
My daughter Summer's eating that like it's nothing. I don't know. Iron gut.
I love the taste of it, but yeah, you got to be careful with that stuff. Okay, so when I was just getting into guitar playing, I got a job at a music store, guitar store in Edmonton, and this store opened in 1963, and it just closed last year, and it closed just because of retirement, not because of anything else. So Lillo's Music, it was called. Owned by Vic Lillo, this incredible man, musician, and definitely a salesman. He was, you think of a classic salesman, and he was a salesman. I got a job there, first work experience through school. You get credit for working, and then eventually I moved on to actually being an employee there. They offered lessons at the store as well, so I was taking lessons with this guitar player, Glenn Gray, who's still teaching, still playing. He was quite a bit older than me. I don't want to go estimating, but he was older, definitely older than I was. And during one of the lessons, we got talking somehow about a project he was working on, and with another couple of people, he said, yeah, we're kind of looking for a bass player now. I said, I'll play bass. I was, I think 17. I said, because kind of amazingly, he said, sure, come and try out. And he gave me some charts for it. And I practiced them, and I came to the rehearsal, and I was able to sight read them because I knew how to read music, and they decided to let me play in the band. And after that, Glenn is an incredible blues guitar player and singer and country player as well. So I did play in his band for a little while and played around. I would say dive bar is a nice way to put it, but we played in some interesting places around Edmonton. This is when I was 18 years old, barely able to legally get into these places in Alberta. But anyway, so Glenn was playing guitar. He wrote some of the songs. Alan Barant was kind of the leader of this project, and he was an accountant, but also just an incredible singer. You'll hear in the song, he's got this really high tenor voice. It reminds you of some of the great prog rock singers. And the piano player, background vocalist, Corrine, is the daughter of the owner of the store, Corrine Lillo. She also teaches music and is a great musician. So we, over a year and a half, put together an album of original tunes and recorded it. We didn't play live much. We played on these kind of breakfast television shows a few times, and we did an album launch of this album, and we played the whole thing live, including the 17-minute 7-movement composition, and we got through the whole thing. It was pretty great. So what you're going to hear now is the last tune, Surround, from this album, and it really kind of, I think, showcases what the band is about. Some kind of, accessible, almost poppy stuff, but also you'll definitely hear elements of progressive rock. And I wanted to find a tune from this album to share with your listeners because unfortunately the band is gone. I couldn't find the album anywhere for sale. Which is unfortunate because a lot of work and certainly a lot of money went into putting it out. So if anybody's interested, they can get in touch, and I'd be happy to share it just to have it out there because I listened to it with my son a few weeks ago. It's been a long time, and there's some really, really interesting, really great compositions on there. And it made me really nostalgic to listen to because it was such an interesting project and something I probably won't be involved in again like that. It's the only album I've ever done, in a band, and it's too bad that it can't be bought. But I hope your listeners do enjoy this, and it's something that I was proud to be a part of.
Surrounds me, confuses, confounds me. I'm glad that it's found me, I'm glad it's today. A love that surrounds me, soothes me, astounds me. A mind that can touch me, can show me the way. Reality dreaming, charging review. With all that I see, reflections of you. Senses revealing, open to view. Suspending belief, to behold what is true. Suspending belief, to behold what is true. Less than dramatic, everything that I wanted to, ecstasy or ecstatic, shades of love in a different hue. Every sound sings the chorus, that surrounds me, completes me, confronts me. A life that was once me has changed every way. A love that surrounds me, embraces, excites me, absorbed and around me, caressed where we lay. Destiny gleaming and aura that shines. A love that's surreal, exists as divine. A walk into heaven, I'm sure it will stay. The warmth of your smile brings in the day. The warmth of your smile brings in the
Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.